Just a couple of days ago, Arcane introduced a new Season 2 trailer, still not giving us a proper release date, but confirming it's November. Trailer itself is mind-blowingly good, very dynamic, providing so much information when it comes to what to expect in Season 2, however, as they do, delivering in a way that can be pretty confusing, especially when it comes to the chronology of the events. I wanted to take a moment and discuss what we saw shot by shot and make some guesses when it comes to what's going to happen, and when in particular. Let's analyze the trailer frame by frame. So, Season 2, despite not providing much to go on with apart from some teasers and trailer, for sure will include some plots that we can already predict, and probably accurately, based on Season 1's ending and League of Legends lore. We know that Vi and Kate's romance story will go on. We know that Lady Medardha will intervene in Piltover's business. We know that this means Nox's involvement. We know that Victor will follow up on his dark path towards becoming more synthetic. We know that we'll have to face the aftermath of Jinx's attack on the council, possibly Cassandra's death, Silco being gone, the chaos that will arise in Zone, and of course Warwick.
You were right, Kate. My sister is gone. There's only Jinx now.
I want to tear that laugh from her throat forever.
Now, trailer starts slowly and follows up on the conversation that Vi and Caitlyn already started in Season 1.
Wait! She's my sister. Vi, she's too far gone.
Showing us wanted posters, as clearly Caitlyn's main objective early on in Season 2 will be capturing and stopping Jinx. With this particular shot happening straight after the council attack, given Caitlyn's old clothes and previous haircut. Possibly we see the council building destroyed and Caitlyn hunting down Jinx. It seems like now Vi will be on her side, although based on the previous Netflix teaser, she will be still very much hesitant about her role in the process. She might think she's doing the right thing. She might be doing that for Caitlyn, doing it out of guilt. But it doesn't seem like she's quite ready to let go of her sister just yet, regardless of what she says.
I can do this myself. No one else needs to get hurt. I'm ready.
While Vi says she's ready, it's clear at this point the trailer seems to mislead us. Vi's visual appearance, state of her face and color of her hair are a major hint chronology-wise. And when Vi says she's ready, she's not responding to Caitlyn's eagerness to hunt down Jinx. She probably means either her underground fights, given the plasters on her face, or perhaps she's already ready to move on from the dark phase in her life because her hair is no longer black, which we'll discuss in a second. Maybe she's replying to Echo, who I think might play a major role in bringing Vi back from her emo phase. We see chaos that arises in Zone once Silco is gone, and as far as we know, there's no clear leader, with Jinx becoming, as previously suggested, symbol of Zone's revolution and the Camp Baron's wanted enemy with Sevika's surprising support. Why is it that Sevika decides to support Jinx? It surely cannot be that she sees her as Silco's legacy. She always questioned Jinx's role in Silco's life, barely acknowledging that she was like a daughter to him. It does feel like, since we previously saw some hints that we might see Sevika's flashbacks, we still have to understand why she supported Silco, as much as possibly why she's gonna help out Jinx. Early on in the trailer we also see a hooded silhouette, with Jinx's laughter in the back, suggesting it's her. However, I think at this point trailer might be again trying to mislead us. There's no clear reason as to why Jinx would need a big reveal, unless she's trying to hide herself from the enforcers. This could also be someone else, a character whose change would require a visual reveal for the viewers, and that person potentially could be Victor. However, there's graffiti in the back, which supports the fact that it might be her. Moments later, trailer takes us to Vi's dark phase, which was previously hinted during Arcane reveal in France some weeks ago. Back then, rumors suggested that Vi will go through a dark period in her life, grieving the symbolic loss of her sister, cutting herself away from Piltover, going to Zone's darkest lanes, drinking, attending brutal fights, which leads to plasters on her face, dyeing her hair black. Like I mentioned before, Vi's hair color strongly suggests the chronological order of events. As strongly that it's even making me wonder if we aren't being misled yet again. But the way I see it, we start off with Vi supporting Caitlyn's mission to hunt down Jinx. After all, after Cassandra's possible death, she feels responsible for Caitlyn's suffering. She then joins the Enforcers, which doesn't come as a surprise given that in League of Legends lore she is one working alongside Caitlyn. But then their mission goes south. Jinx, with a major support coming from the Zonites, does not allow herself to be captured, possibly attacking Piltover back. After the defeat, Caitlyn and Vi fight, possibly have a fallout, which leads to Vi following her long and dark path down. I see this happening middle of the season, after failed attempt to capture Jinx, but before what I expect to be a Noxian war with Piltover, which we'll get to in a second.
To return peace to this city, you must declare martial law.
Naturally, we see intensification of Zone and Piltover conflict. After all, after such a crucial attack on a public body, Zone will once again become an enemy. We see Piltover buildings covered in what seems to be smoke or fog, and forces attacking one of Echo's allies, Caitlyn watching over her city, with what seems to be a Noxian building on the right, as red color would suggest. Following Lady Medada's involvement, Lady Medada will without a doubt play a major role in Season 2. I will link a video I made about it some months ago. As trailers suggest, as well as the fact that she's about to become a League of Legends champion. Red Noxian building that's still under construction located in Piltover must mean that Noxus has strong interest in Piltover, which is fairly clear based on both League of Legends lore and the context that Arcane provided. Noxus, a war-oriented region, is after power, and Piltover does provide that, being both a strategic location connecting to other regions like Shurima, as well as a new powerful tool that can be used as a weapon, Hextech. We'll get to that in a second. What also feels clear to me is that trailer is misleading us yet again. It's making us believe that Lady Medada is trying to talk Caitlyn into using power against Zone, declaring martial law, so effectively military rule. While I don't think Caitlyn needs much talking into performing an attack on Zone after losing her mother, I also don't think she's important enough to Medada. Ambessa's interests lie elsewhere. As previously stated, Noxus is after power, and Piltover's military power is Hextech. Medada, following up on her already started discourse with Jace, will probably make these statements towards him. Jace, for obvious reasons, cannot be yet shown in the trailer as we are still pretending he died. Or towards some other council member who survived. She is also doing that not to aim at Zone, unless she'd get interested in Chemtech. It's far more likely though that she's trying to influence Piltover in order to get her hands on Hextech. That alone might lead to Jace having at least one reason to destroy it. Second one being Victor's involvement with hexcore, leading to his body augmentation. We were told that the main word that could describe Season 2 is war. And we know that Noxus stands for war.
Topside is the real enemy. You have the chance to rally the Undercity together. Your symbol.
Next part of the trailer focuses on Sevika claiming the Topside is the enemy, showing us Camp Baron's headquarters and also, as many pointed out, either a small hint we might see League of Legends champion Corina, a former Zone Camp Baron, current criminal and Sheriff Caitlyn's obsession in the lore, or just a small Easter egg, which might be the case with how packed with material to cover Season 2 already is. Now, Sevika's speech we can hear during this part is, in my opinion, supposed to mislead us yet again. During bits of that part, her hair is different than in what we can only assume to be beginning of Season 2, where she gets together with Jinx. Her appearance differs too. Either what we see is Sevika's flashback from Vanda's revolution time and she's actually aiming the speech towards someone else in the past, or she really is aiming it at Jinx, but for a different reason that we might assume. Like I said before, I am convinced in second part of the season we will see Piltover fight against Noxus, trying not to give away Hextech. But we must not forget Zone has no business in being under Noxus's rule either, and we might potentially see Piltover and Zone fighting together against Noxus in what I'd describe as brighter parts of trailer. After all, if Season 1 was to teach us anything, is that Arcane has been about opposite sides coming together. Caitlyn and Vi, Victor and Jace, Heimerdinger and Echo, Zonites and Piltovians. If there's a lesson to be given by Arcane, it would be just that. The lesson of forgiveness and realizing fighting together against a common enemy instead of against each other while giving the enemy advantage might just be the better option here. Could it be that Sevika is trying to convince Jinx to support the fight against Noxus? We also see Season 1 symbol used previously by Jinx in order for her to be found by Vi. It seems to be used by someone hooded, silhouette previously shown to us. That again supports the claim it might really be Jinx. Then again, there is no nail polish on that person's nails. Gloves differ as well. Which makes me think this time it might be Vi seeking out Jinx instead of the other way around. The blue flare is a sign only known to Vi and Jinx. No one else knew its meaning, which leads me to conclusion there is no other reason to have it used other than between them two. Them coming together in a fight against third party. It could also be that they were previously reunited briefly because of Warwick's appearance, probably mid-season, which we'll get to in a second. At this point, the trailer also shows us what I believe to be Zonites uniting to protect Jinx. Not just symbolically, but also literally trying to protect her by dyeing their hair blue, which leads to an expression of almost disbelief on her face. It's been a while since anyone believed in her unconditionally, and it seems now is the time. We have to remember Zonites are for sure more united, more likely to protect one another than let's say Piltovians, because they share the same oppressions, same struggles. We also see Vi in her dark phase, happening mid-season I believe, seeing how Jinx has been acknowledged by Zon as a symbol. One that's probably represented by what I believe ended Caitlyn's vendetta at the time, so a series of explosions around Piltover causing colorful smoke shown later on in the trailer, suggesting the chronology of things. Caitlyn's vendetta alongside Vi, Jinx being protected by her people by misleading the enforcers with color blue, Jinx's counterattack on Piltover leading to Caitlyn and Vi's fallout, and Vi heading towards her dark phase. I think the worst part of that mural is actually putting Jinx side by side next to Vander, as we know she couldn't be further away from his values.
So what are you planning?
Watch it all burn.
A lot of parts of the trailer again mislead us by portraying not one, but two separate fire-related situations, if not more. And again, hints are hidden mostly in the way characters look, their hairstyle and their clothes. We can see colorful blasts around Piltover, which in my opinion are not caused at all by the falling match. Desperate Vi is not trying to stop it from falling down either. Vi we see in this particular shot has already both her black dye washed off, which means it's final part of the season, and she is wearing what seems to be her clothes that she's gonna wear a bit later on. Since it's safe to assume we will start off with Vi the Enforcer early on in the season during Jinx's hunt, followed by Emo Vi, then reborn version of herself, again working with Caitlyn, reunited, and hopefully together, but as her own person. Her scream of desperation is worrying though. There isn't much that could lead her to such state. Either Caitlyn's life is in danger, or Jinx's is, or there is a lot at stake, like the safety of the entire city. When Jinx says she wants to watch it all burn, notice her tone. It almost feels like she has partially given up, like she no longer cares, and because of where she sits, Silco's office. It makes me think this also happens very early on, and it's actually her grief that we see. Since it does seem like it actually is Sevika asking her that question, it's possible this particular scene happens once Sevika backs up Jinx in what we already have seen as Cambarans and Jinx encounter. Blasts around Piltover, like previously stated, have to happen in the first part of the season as well, before Vi goes emo, because we saw they became a symbol and part of Zone's graffitis she has been looking at. Ambessa in the flames though, that has to be part of the Noxus war we will see in the second part of the season. That part of the trailer immediately connects to the next one and needs to be analyzed together.
You felt it, haven't you?
What we now see is supposed to give us an impression that it's Nox's war against Zorn, possibly supporting Piltover, but I think that impression would be wrong. I think what we see Noxus trying to either get to or defend Hextech and parts of Zorn Revolution against Piltover. Ambessa seems aggressive, invasive. For sure we see her Noxian war version, maybe even her future champion look. Seconds later we see what seems to be an essence of Arcane, either a hexcore gate exploding, connecting to the world of the magic, or an object strongly connected to Hextech and magic but now destroyed, possibly because of the war that Noxus has started, lack of balance between Piltover and Zorn. This could be the place we have seen in the previous teaser connected to Victor and what he does with his new powers. Finally, we see what I believe happens by the end of first part of the season. Singed, possibly as self-defense or a distraction, releasing a creature he has previously nurtured, as seen as previous teaser, Warwick, in other words Vander. Again, this has to happen somewhere in the first part of the season, during Caitlyn's arrests in Zorn. Also because in second part of the season we will see Vi, in her emo phase, confronting Warwick.
The Arcane is waking up.
Sometimes taking a leap forward means leaving a few things behind.
We then move on to the Hex Gates, probably right before they get compromised, seeing 4 people that I believe we have previously seen approaching the mysterious hexcore substance, oddly influenced by it in a very similar way Victor was when he started his augmentation process, which furthermore supports the thesis it's actually Victor trying to take over it, giving into his evil League of Legends side. We also see what seems to be Vi and Jinx confrontation happening probably not too far into the season, given Vi's enforcer outfit she's gonna assume to begin with. As well as Caitlyn taking a shot, maybe finally answering the previously asked question.
What are you shooting for?
Wearing her season 1 clothes, so still not a sheriff uniform, and still not a white beret she will probably put on around Noxus against Piltover war. We then see Echo in what I believe is precisely that war. We can clearly see he is attacking a Noxian soldier, which again supports the idea that both Zorn and Piltover will be fighting against Noxus. Finally, we get to see a bit more of Heimerdinger. Apart from some short teasers that include him and Echo, he seems to be neglected. But surely, if anyone, he will be the one trying to stop Victor from influencing hexcore the most, given the fact that he knows how destructive magic in the wrong hands can be, and the fact that Victor was his protege. I think, given the state of hexcore's destruction we reach, Echo's Z-Drive might come into play here, trying to fix that. Even what Echo says feels like a metaphor for Z-Drive's ability to go back in time, leaving things behind. I do hope, maybe that's my wishful thinking, that he is directing these words towards Vi in her darkest moments, her emo phase, when she says she is ready, probably to go back and support their cause. After all, later on, we do see them cooperating together.
This has to end.
Next part of the trailer heavily focuses on the efforts to save hexcore or stop Victor from influencing it, performed by Echo and whatever device he is using by pulling the chain. These bits belong in the final part of the season, giving Echo's different outfit as well as entirely new hairstyle. We can also see Noxus' efforts trying to take over hexcore and Ambessa Medada in her aggressive, bloody war attack, as well as Vi in her dark phase that was mentioned previously, performing some fights in the darkest lanes of Zorn. There also seems to be a massive explosion that Vi is running away from, carrying a person over her shoulders. Given the color of her hair, red with washed out black remains, as well as overall bright coloring of that scene, this seems to be part of the Noxus war itself in the second part of the season. Vi is running away from a major blast that can also be seen right next to Noxus' ships. We see Sevika and Caitlyn's confrontation disturbed by yet another explosion. What's interesting here is the repetitive pattern behind blasts shown previously in Arcane. Every single blast that hurt Caitlyn was caused by Jinx. when she was a kid in Jace's lab when Kuraman building was blown to pieces. Blast caused by Jinx aimed to capture the crystal, as well as an explosion on the bridge. This leads me to conclusion that blast that we can see is yet again a result of Jinx's action, ultimately influencing both Sevika and Caitlyn, as opposed to the colorful explosion in Piltover. This one could actually be caused by the falling marsh we have previously seen. This happens probably around mid-season given Caitlyn's clothes, mainly the white beret that she has on. Let's take a moment to look at this shot though. The way it's located is meant to suggest Jinx is somehow part of that Sevika and Jinx blast, or maybe that Jinx is shocked because Caitlyn is aiming her gun at her. The way this scene is edited makes me think Jinx is in fact about to see something shocking, mainly because of the zoom and her own expression. However, I don't think it's supposed to be Caitlyn's shot. I doubt Jinx would be shocked Caitlyn's after her. I do however believe Jinx in this particular shot is about to see Warwick. There's another similar frame later on in the trailer where Vi is exposed to Warwick aka Vander in a similar setting, so hopefully both sisters will get a chance to confront their father, and in Jinx's case, her own demons connected to his death.
Then stop me.
So much is happening in these final dynamic moments of the trailer. To start with, we see Caitlyn, who might be, and I don't think they're misleading us here much, facing Jinx, circling back all the way to the very first Arcane Season 2 announcement that we got.
I'm glad it's you. Had to be you.
Does it have to be Caitlyn, following her own vendetta after the death of her mother? Does it have to be Vi, because she's her sister? Because it all started with Vi and at the time Powder. Either way, both will get a chance at confronting Jinx, since for sure we will see Caitlyn aiming at Jinx, possibly more than once. Maybe we will get to see Vi stopping her, perhaps causing their fallout. For sure we will see Vi fighting Jinx, as trailer does present multiple times. Jinx in that particular frame is probably trailer's most iconic shot. Her dressed up as what I believe to be Fishbone's rocket launcher that she used to aim at the council, validating the fact she is the essence behind destruction now, and furthermore antagonizing Caitlyn, dressing up as literally the thing that killed her mother. There also seem to be some bodies around, and Jinx is holding an object which I imagine to be some sort of a gun, or perhaps an object triggering colorful explosions around Piltover that we previously saw. We are then taken to what I believe to be Echo and Vi's involvement in the Noxus war during the final parts of the season. It does seem that Vi jumps at Echo's hoverboard unexpectedly, but the way he reacts by immediately holding on to her makes me believe they were actually cooperating, and this sequence happens soon after Echo talks her into coming back from her dark emo gig. Seconds later, trailer once more leads us into the world of magic, showing us a mysterious figure holding what seems to be some sort of a hexcore related object, a figure we have seen once before during Jace's childhood adventure. Some believe it to be Rise, League of Legends' powerful ruins champion. However, since I don't think we will have time to introduce Rise specifically in this season, I suppose any mage would serve for the purpose of this story and the awakening of Arcane, whatever Arcane ends up being. We then also see blue-haired girl being saved by someone from the chaos of the situation and fire, creating a wonderful metaphor circling back to as early as Season 1 very first scene when Vander carried away both Vi and Powder after his failed revolution. Perhaps the story does want to make a full circle here. We then see Echo unmistakably using Z-Drive, which means in the final parts of the season, he will go back in time a bit, potentially saving the situation. It's unclear yet at the moment how Z-Drive in Arcane will work. The one in game can go back only a few seconds, but apparently it's a very powerful tool for the players. It does seem like Z-Drive will be constructed in Arcane with Heimerdinger's help if we take into consideration they sneaked into the council together, potentially stealing something needed to craft it up. We also see Caitlyn in distress, judging by her haircut and clothing during the first zone attack. And finally, a figure that could be, in my opinion, Jace. Naturally, both Victor and Jace's absence has been noticeable in all the previous teasers and trailers. I imagine it had to have been difficult to navigate these, trying to avoid spoiling the fact that they survived, and in Victor's case, that he became robotic. I think, while the stick we see might suggest Victor, the crystal very much reminds of the one Jace received from the mage and carried on his wrist. Again, making it quite possible part of the season will severely focus on magic and its role in the Piltover and Zone conflict. At the very least, its role in what Victor seems to be doing. And speaking of that conflict, there's a strong theory going around the community that the figure we see next, the one resembling Silco, is actually LeBlanc, Noxian champion who is known for intervening in politics outside of Noxus, as well as for their power in Noxus itself. What supports that idea the most is the fact that LeBlanc can actually shape their own state into whatever they want to. After all, we do know that final season will be for sure at least partially heavy Noxus focused, which makes that theory a highly possible one. There's absolutely no way that Silco survived, so it has to be something, assuming his shape. We then see Vi confronting Jinx, who seems to be triggering some sort of a blast. Because the blast itself is colorful, it's safe to assume it's the very same one that's gonna start series of explosions around Piltover. In the back, we can see monsters painted on the wall, the very same ones Vi mentioned talking to Caitlyn on the bed in Season 1. Ultimate metaphor when it comes to what came for Jinx, because in Vi's opinion, she was not able to protect her from the monsters. Heimerdinger is also triggering some sort of an explosion. In the lore, he is pretty famous for creating bombs, which might come as a surprise to some Arcane fans if you take into consideration how against violence Heimerdinger seems to be. Which makes me think, perhaps Heimerdinger's role in Season 2, apart from helping Echo, will be stopping Victor, potentially by blowing up hexcore, ultimately stopping Piltover's progress, but at the same time, saving the city both from Victor's influence, from the way magic cannot be controlled, as Heimerdinger previously stated, as well as from Noxus capturing hexcore and using it as a powerful weapon in their future wars.
That cannot happen here, my boy. It must not.
The trailer, very much like back in Season 1, is meant to be confusing, misleading and tricky. It's hard to watch it once and catch all the nuance. It's even difficult to capture all the details after having seen it multiple times. But for sure there are visual hints here and there that can provide some context as to what we're looking at. I realize I might not have captured even half of it, but I hope I managed to at least put some order as to what we're seeing and when it's supposed to happen. Potentially. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, major shout out to my wonderful patrons.